This is your, correct me if I'm wrong, is it your fourth or fifth book?
Must be my fifth book, because I have another one that I've written too, which will be my sixth, which is a novel.
Okay, let's talk about that a bit. Now, you've written 2 books of poetry.
3
books of poetry.
1 novel.
And then you've written 1 novel.
Which is 4.
And
this one. I have a play that has not been published. Yes.
And I know you are writing another novel.
I'm writing another novel now. I have another novel that has been published, that has been being published now. So that will be the 6th. So I'm working on the 7th. Yeah.
Tell me about poetry. What's poetry like? Where does poetry come in for you nowadays? When did you fall in love with poetry?
Poetry is something that caught me unawares. I always thought that I was engaged on the level of prose writing until my colleagues and some of my editors started saying that I was a poet. And sometimes I would write a piece, they would say, I just read your poetry. I was like, oh, was that so? And I think one of my editors, the first person who said it to me was Bayo Nonuga, when I was an African conqueror, and he said, the poet. And it was referring to a piece I wrote that was quoted by the BBC in those days during the toxic waste saga in the past. And then when I was in the US, my editor at the Rocky Mountain News said, Sam has the soul of a poet. It was then I started getting conscious of myself as a poet. That means just put words together with rhythm and with a sense of logic and with a sense of intuition.
Okay, a chronicle foretold. Now, this book is a compilation of articles you wrote during the era of President Goodluck Jonathan.
Yes.
And you were a fierce critic of his presidency. Is that correct?
Yes, some will say that.
It's obvious from
some will say that.
From this.
Yes.
He's gone now.
Yes.
He's left office.
Yes.
Is there anything you take back?
It's very hard for me to take anything back because everything was there in the open. In fact, there was so much, in spite of what I wrote, that I didn't know until he left. It was a very peculiar kind of Nigerian leader who kind of inveigled his way into the Nigerian soul. And he stayed there for a while, and we had already embraced it, and we didn't even want to let him go. It had to take an extraordinary effort before he left.
I mean, from most of your pieces,
yes.
You obviously held nothing back.
I couldn't. I had more than you think. More than you think. I had something
you didn't write everything you wanted to write.
If I wrote everything I wanted to write, I don't think they would have been publishable at that time. I mean,
I'm going to start. Let me. Here, there's a piece here you wrote titled Prophecy.
Yes.
Which you wrote before Jonathan got fully into power.
Yes.
Yeah. And you were saying that you were not foreseeing a good tenure.
Yes.
Some people have accused you of writing those things because of your affiliation with APC. Is that correct?
That is, there was no APC when I wrote that piece.
There was AC.
There was AC, and there were other parties, and so on. And therefore, people accuse me of affiliation to APC or affiliation to AC. You see, we always want to look for a way to oversimplify issues. That was the only thing. My affiliation, I had no affiliation with any political party. To listen to that is to open the way for your own integrity to be impugned. But you just go ahead and do what you're doing.
You didn't write much about the good things that happened during that tenure.
I actually looked for good things that happened during that tenure. And I remember when I was being interviewed on Sunrise, I think it was Chamberlain asked me, is there any good thing that you find? I asked them if they could remind me of any good thing, that I would really be happy.
The
It
election
happened,
process,
yeah.
the election
But going back,
yeah.
I would say that one of the good things that Jonathan did was the fact that he tried to institute some sanity into banking transactions at that time. With this policy of making sure that you don't just throw cash around, and that everything had to go through the banking route.
That was a good thing.
That was a good thing.
How about the electioneering process?
The electioneering process was very flawed.
That led to
The
emergence of
electioneering
government.
process was very flawed. It was a product more of vigilance than of integrity by the part of the people. And the fact that maybe Providence threw Jega into that place, and Jega turned out to be a person who was not malleable. So it almost as if they created, in a good way, a Frankenstein monster.
What was happening to you every week? After every week, after you wrote every week, what was the experience like?
I got a lot of attack from people who were Jonathan supporters, and I wonder why they kept quiet when all the revelations happened and when I was proved right. For instance, the first place prophecy I wrote in 2011, when the naira was about 160, was even less than 160, about 141 to the dollar. And I wrote there in this article in 2011 that as Jonathan came into the office, and that we should not be surprised if by the time he left office, it would exchange for 250 to a dollar. And it looked as if I was just imagining. But I knew, given my sense of how he handled government, the people around him, that was what was going to happen. And that was also based on his period as interim president when Yaradua died, how money was just being thrown about. And I knew that the naira was in danger. I also said that in the article that capital project may just become less than 10%. It was going to be at about 90%. And if we're not careful, we'll be borrowing money. And it looked like I was in fantasy land. But as I said in the article, it was not a matter of being a mystique. It was a matter of observing what was before you. That's why I said your job as a columnist writing every week is try to periscope to see, what is to observe and then to perceive and then find the language to document.
Some will argue that, those things didn't eventually happen under his watch.
By the time he left office, the dollar was close to 250.
A lot of people are saying, based on what is happening in Nigeria today,
yes,
a lot of people are saying now that didn't Nigeria make a wrong call in 2015, considering the value of dollars, considering, the value of the naira, considering cost of PMS, considering the state of the economy,
it is a valid question to ask, but we also have to ask ourselves, where are we coming from? When you have $800 million as the only available amount of money that you can spend, and you have to spend 600 million every month to import PMS, what do you have to do? Anything. It is time for the government also to sit down and be very creative. It's a time for visionary leadership, not just disciplined leadership, but visionary leadership. You have to galvanize the country. This is the time for it, and it's not the same time like when it was doing the subsidy thing, when oil was 114 to a dollar, and then we had excess of foreign exchange and so on. We had excess of foreign exchange when we had money to even construct the rail from Lagos all the way to Calabar. Just to pay half of it, we couldn't. I would see all the revelations that are coming. That's why a leader described us as fantastically corrupt.
What's your most outstanding piece here?
It is very hard for me to pick an outstanding piece, you know. Of course, I like the prophecy, the one that's why I call the book A Prophecy Foretold. It was like I said this was going to happen, and then I was documenting the things as they happened. So that's why I called it a prophecy foretold. A chronicle, sorry, chronicle foretold. That was a prophecy that we're all living the prophecy. Yeah.
Interesting. Oh, thank you very much for this time we've had together.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well done.
Thank you. Yeah.